The bridge of the Coalition warship Eternal Dawn hummed with nervous energy, stood at his station, watching the tactical display with careful eyes. He wore the uniform of a junior officer, his face hidden behind the standard helmet that all crew members used. Nobody knew what he really was. Nobody could know. "Another defeat," Commander hissed, his reptilian skin changing color from green to angry red. The Devourers destroyed the entire Fourth Fleet, 300 ships, gone in less than an hour. Stayed quiet. He had learned long ago that silence kept him safe. Around him, officers from a dozen different alien species worked at their stations. There were the tall with their blue skin, the who clicked when they talked, the floating gas beings called the Whispers. All of them were part of the Galactic Coalition, the great alliance that had kept peace for 300 years. But peace was ending. The Devourers had come from the dark space between galaxies. They were like nothing the Coalition had ever seen, a hive-mind species that consumed everything. They ate planets. They absorbed technology. They learned and adapted with terrifying speed. World after world fell to their endless hunger. "Sir, we're receiving another distress call," said an officer. "It's from the colony on Helios 7. His clawed hand smashed against his chair. "We have no ships to send. Tell them to evacuate." "They say the Devourers are already landing, sir. They're requesting immediate assistance." "Then they will die," said coldly. "We cannot save everyone. The Council has made this clear." Felt his jaw tighten. This was the fifth world this week. The Coalition was losing badly. Their strategies didn't work. Their weapons barely slowed the enemy, and their pride wouldn't let them try anything new. He glanced across the bridge to another station. There stood Sara, his sister. She wore the disguise of an engineer, a holographic skin covering her real appearance. They had lived this lie for 3 years now, hiding among the aliens, watching and waiting. Earth's shadow government had sent them to observe the galaxy in secret, to learn if humanity was ready to reveal itself. So far, the answer had been no. Sara met his eyes for just a second. She gave the smallest shake of her head. "Don't do anything stupid," her look said. "Keep the mission. Stay hidden." But was tired of hiding, tired of watching people die when he knew humans could help. "Commander," said the Whisper at the communications station, its voice like wind through leaves. "The colony reports that civilian transports are trying to escape, but Devourer fighters are hunting them." Turned away, not our concern. Something broke inside. He thought about the children on those transports, the families, all about to die while the Coalition did nothing. His hand moved to his console. With quick fingers, he accessed systems he wasn't supposed to touch. The ship's sensors, the weapons array. He had studied Coalition technology for years. He knew it better than most of the crew. "Sir," shouted another officer, "I'm detecting a power surge in Section 7. "What?" Spun around. "Who's doing that?" Didn't answer. He was already moving. He ran from his station toward the auxiliary control room. Behind him, he heard shouting. Alarms began to scream. Sara's voice crackled in his hidden earpiece. "Brother, what are you doing?" "What we should have done years ago," he replied. He reached the auxiliary room and locked the door behind him. His fingers flew across the controls. The Eternal Dawn had weapons the Coalition never used. Weapons they considered too dangerous, too unpredictable. Human weapons, though they didn't know it. Earth had been secretly selling technology through hidden channels for decades. Activated the ship's experimental fighter craft. It was a small vessel, fast and deadly. The Coalition had been too afraid to test it properly, but had trained in similar craft back on Earth. He knew exactly what it could do. "This is Commander. Whoever you are, stop immediately. That's an order." "I'm sorry, sir," said calmly, "but I can't do that." He launched the fighter. The small craft shot out of the Eternal Dawn's hangar like a bullet, stripped off his helmet as he flew. No more hiding, no more lies. The fighter's computer linked to his neural implant, a piece of human technology the Coalition didn't know existed. Suddenly, the ship became an extension of his body. He thought, and it moved. Helios 7 appeared on his screen. The planet was burning. Devourer ships swarmed around it like angry insects. And there, trying to run through the chaos, were 3 civilian transports. Slow, helpless, defenseless. "I see you," whispered. He dove into the battle. The Devourers didn't see him coming. They were used to Coalition tactics, slow, predictable, organized. Was none of those things. He flew the fighter in ways that would have made a Coalition pilot sick, spinning, diving, using the planet's gravity to slingshot around. He came at the Devourer fighters from impossible angles. His weapons fired in patterns that seemed random but were actually calculated chaos. One enemy ship exploded, then another, then 3 more. The Devourers tried to adapt. They always adapted, but kept changing his approach. No pattern, no logic, pure human instinct and creativity. Back on the Eternal Dawn, every screen showed the battle. The bridge crew watched in stunned silence. "What is that pilot doing?" someone whispered. "Those maneuvers are impossible," said another. "Who is flying that ship?" demanded. Sora closed her eyes. The secret was out now. No going back. Cleared a path through the Devourer fighters. The 3 transports accelerated, racing toward safety. He escorted them until they could jump to faster-than-light speed. They escaped. Then turned his fighter around and headed back to the Eternal Dawn. His fuel was low. His weapons were empty, but he had done it. He had saved them. "Pilot, identify yourself immediately," commanded over the communication channel. Took a deep breath. He opened a video link. His human face appeared on every screen in the Coalition fleet. "My name is I am from Earth, and humans are not a legend, we're real. We've always been real." The galaxy went silent. Far away, on a hidden world that most species thought was destroyed ago, alarms began to sound. Earth's shadow government received the transmission. Emergency protocols activated. The secret was out. Humanity's long isolation was over. And the galaxy would never be the same. The Coalition Council chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from all 47 member worlds gathered in the massive circular room. They spoke in dozens of languages, all translated by computers into a chaotic mix of sound. But everyone was talking about the same thing. Humans were real. Ambassador and being with 4 arms and compound eyes stood at the center podium. His mandibles clicked nervously. "Order, we must have order." But order was hard to find. The galaxy had just learned that everything they believed was wrong. Earth wasn't destroyed. Humans hadn't killed themselves in ancient wars. They had been hiding, growing, watching. On the main screen, Space played again and again. His recorded message from the fighter craft had spread across every Coalition world in hours. Now, billions of beings knew the truth. "This is a trick," shouted a counselor. "Humans are just a story we tell children." "I saw the fighter combat footage," replied a representative. "No Coalition pilot flies like that. The maneuvers were impossible, unless the pilot wasn't following Coalition training," finished quietly. The chamber doors opened. Every head turned. A woman walked in, flanked by 2 guards in armor nobody recognized. She was human. Short by Coalition standards, with dark hair and confident eyes. She wore a simple gray suit that looked nothing like Coalition uniforms. "My name is," she said calmly. "I am the diplomatic representative of Earth, and we need to talk." The chamber erupted in noise again. Simply waited. She had practiced this moment for years. Earth's shadow government had prepared for the day humanity would reveal itself. They just hadn't planned on forcing their hand. Called for silence. "Representative, Earth has been silent for how long?" 812 years, replied. After we almost destroyed ourselves in the Third Global War, our ancestors decided to isolate, to rebuild, to learn from our mistakes before we reached out to the stars. And now, asked a floating whisper, why reveal yourselves now? Because the galaxy is dying, said simply. The devourers are winning. We have watched your battles. Your strategies aren't working. You need help. Human help, a reptilian counselor laughed. The legends say your kind are violent, unstable, dangerous. The legends are partly right, admitted. We are capable of terrible violence. That's why we hid. We didn't want to become a threat, but we also learned control, discipline, and we developed ways of fighting that you've never seen. She activated a hologram. It showed a star map, but this map had details the Coalition had never recorded: hidden trade routes, secret listening posts, and there, near the edge of explored space, something that made the entire chamber gasp. A fleet, hundreds of ships, all human. This is impossible, whispered. This is Terra's shield, said. Our defense fleet, commanded by Captain, we've been building in secret for centuries. We're not as advanced as you in some areas, but in others, she smiled slightly. In others, we've been very creative. The hologram changed. It showed human weapons, strange designs that looked almost primitive compared to Coalition technology, but the combat simulations that followed were anything but primitive. The weapons did things Coalition scientists said were impossible. You've been spying on us, accused the counselor. We've been learning from you, corrected. And yes, we placed observers on your ships. My apologies for the deception, but we needed to understand if the galaxy was ready for humanity. And asked. And the devourers changed everything. We can't hide anymore, not when the threat is this big. A new voice spoke from the back of the chamber. The lady speaks truth. Commander walked forward. Behind him came Insara, both in restraints, but scales showed a thoughtful green color, not the angry red from before. I have interrogated these humans, said. They have served on my ship for 3 years. In that time they saved my crew 17 times from accidents or dangers. They never harmed anyone. They only helped. He paused. And yesterday, the one called saved 347 lives, lives I had written off as lost. Looked at, why did you break your cover? You could have stayed hidden. Met his compound eyes steadily. Because staying hidden while people died felt wrong. Humans have done terrible things in our past. We hurt each other. We almost destroyed our world. But we learned one important lesson. He took a breath. We learned that doing nothing in the face of evil is the same as helping evil win. The chamber went quiet. Stepped forward again. The devourers will reach Coalition core worlds in 6 months, maybe less. Your fleets are losing every battle. You need something different, something they can't predict. You, said the Whisper representative. Us, confirmed. We're offering a deal. Let humanity join the Coalition. Give us membership. In return, we'll commit our full military strength to this war, our ships, our weapons, our tactics, everything. And if we refuse, asked. His face hardened. Then we'll defend Earth and let the rest of the galaxy burn. We've done isolation before. We can do it again, but we'd rather fight beside you than alone. The council members began arguing among themselves. Some wanted to accept immediately. Others worried about letting humans into the Coalition. They were too different, too unpredictable, too dangerous. Raised his 4 arms for silence. This decision is too important to rush. We need time to discuss. You don't have time, said a new voice. Every screen in the chamber lit up. A human man appeared. He was older, with silver hair and sharp eyes. He wore a military uniform covered in medals. I am Captain Commander of Terra's shield, and I'm transmitting from the edge of your space. My fleet is here, 300 ships, 20,000 soldiers. We're ready to help. The hologram zoomed out. The council members saw his fleet for the first time. The ships were smaller than coalition vessels, but there were so many of them, and they moved in patterns that looked almost like a dance. The Devourers just attacked the system, continued. Your fourth defense fleet is there. They're losing. If we move now, we can help, but I need permission to enter coalition space. He looked directly at the council. So what's it going to be? Do we fight together, or do we watch each other die separately? Looked around the chamber. He saw fear in many faces, but he also saw hope. Captain, the ambassador said slowly, on behalf of the Coalition Council, I grant you emergency permission to assist at. Consider this a trial run. Smiled, it wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of a warrior ready for battle. Understood. Terra's shield is moving. Try to keep up. The screens went dark. Bowed slightly to the council. You won't regret this. I hope you're right, replied. Because if humans are as dangerous as the legends say, we may have just invited a new threat into our home. His expression didn't change. Ambassador, the Devourers are the threat. We're the solution. You're about to learn the difference. In the back of the chamber, and Sara exchanged glances. The secret was out. The fleet was coming, and humanity was about to show the galaxy what 800 years of preparation looked like. The war was about to change. The system was dying. Devourer ships filled the space around the fourth planet like a swarm of metal locusts. The Coalition's fourth defense fleet fought desperately, but they were losing. Their formations were breaking apart. Their shields were failing. Their crews were dying. On the bridge of the Coalition flagship Steadfast, General watched his tactical display with growing horror. The Devourers were doing what they always did. They adapted. They learned. Every tactic the Coalition tried, the enemy countered within minutes. Sir, we've lost another cruiser, reported his tactical officer. The Morning Starry's gone. Scaled fist clenched. Pull back to defensive formation, Beta. We need to. General, the communications officer's voice cracked with surprise. New contacts entering the system. Multiple ships there. They're human. Every officer on the bridge turned to the main screen. Hundreds of vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel. They were smaller than Coalition ships, sleeker, and they moved in ways that made no tactical sense. A video link opened. Captain appeared wearing a crisp military uniform. General, Terra's shield has arrived. We're here to help. Had fought wars for 40 years. He had seen every kind of battle tactic, but he had never seen anyone smile before charging into a fight they were losing. Captain, the Devourers have overwhelming numbers. Our strategy is to retreat and regroup. Your strategy isn't working, said a woman's voice. Another human appeared on the screen. She was young with sharp eyes and short hair. I'm a strategist, and General, with all respect, you're fighting this battle wrong. Felt his neck scales rise with irritation. Explain. You're using logic against a logical enemy, said. The Devourers are a hive mind. They think in patterns. They predict your moves because your moves follow rules. Military doctrine, tested strategies. She leaned forward. But what if we break all the rules? That's chaos, protested. Grinned, exactly. Before could respond, half the human fleet suddenly accelerated toward the Devourer swarm. But they didn't attack. Instead, they split apart, each ship going in a different direction. No formation, no pattern, just random movement. What are they doing? His tactical officer asked. They're confusing the enemy, said another voice. A new human appeared on the communication screen. He was younger than, with a hard face and cold eyes. He wore combat armor covered in strange symbols. Commander, the man introduced himself. Special Forces. General, I'm taking a team to the planet's surface. There's a Devourer command node down there. We're going to destroy it. Impossible, said. We tried that twice. Both teams were wiped out. They tried going in heavy and obvious, replied. We're going in quiet and weird, he smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. Devourers have never fought humans before. They don't know what to expect. That's our advantage." Before could argue, ship broke away from the fleet. It was tiny, just a small transport. It dove toward the planet, weaving between devourer ships. They shot at it, but the ship moved unpredictably, spinning, diving, climbing, never in a straight line. "He's going to get himself killed," muttered. "Maybe," said calmly, "or maybe he'll surprise you." In space, the human fleet continued its chaotic dance. Devourer ships tried to form counter-formations, but there was nothing to counter. The humans weren't using formations at all. They were improvising. Each captain made their own decisions. Each ship fought its own battle. And slowly, impossibly, it was working. "Sir," the tactical officer's voice rose with excitement, "the Devourers are. They're hesitating." Looked at his display. It was true. The enemy swarm was slowing down. Their attack patterns were becoming uncertain. The hive mind was trying to understand what it was seeing, trying to find the pattern. There was no pattern to find. "Now," said quietly, "General, form your fleet into standard attack formation Gamma." "But that's a basic tactic," said. "They've countered it before." "They countered it when they could predict it," explained. "Right now they're confused. Their processing power is divided. They're trying to analyze the chaos. So give them something familiar, something they can understand, something they think they can counter." Hesitated only a second. Then he gave the order. The coalition fleet formed up. They charged at the Devourer swarm in perfect formation. The Devourers saw it. Their hive mind recognized the pattern. They moved to counter it just like before. And walked right into his trap. The moment the Devourers committed to their counter-formation, the human ships stopped being random. They suddenly coordinated. They hit the Devourer fleet from 3 different angles at once, precise strikes at weak points, weapons that appeared from nowhere. "What are those?" asked, watching human ships fire strange projectiles. "Missiles that think for themselves," explained. "AI-guided weapons. They're illegal in the coalition, right?" "Because they're unpredictable," said. "Exactly, but the Devourers can't hack them, can't predict them, can't counter them." Smile grew wider. "Welcome to human warfare, General. We fight dirty." On the planet's surface, and his team moved through the ruins of his capital city. They wore armor that bent light around them. Not true invisibility, but close enough. The Devourers had sensors everywhere, but they were looking for normal soldiers. Normal tactics. His team was anything but normal. They moved in silence, hand signals only. They avoided the obvious paths. They went through sewers, through collapsed buildings. They even swam through an underground river. Every choice seemed random, but knew exactly where he was going. The Devourer command node sat in the center of the city, a massive structure of biometal. Thousands of enemy soldiers guarded it. The node coordinated all Devourer forces in the system. Destroy it, and the enemy would be blind. Coalition forces had tried to bomb it from orbit, too many defenses. They tried to assault it directly, too many guards, so they gave up. Humans didn't give up, they just changed the approach. His team reached a position 3 blocks away. They set up their equipment, not weapons, not bombs, something stranger. "Speakers." "Sir," whispered one of soldiers, a young man named Minu. "Are you sure about this?" "Trust the plan," replied. He activated the speakers. They began broadcasting sound. Music, human music, loud, chaotic. Drums and guitars and voices screaming in different languages. The Devourers had never heard anything like it. The guards around the command node reacted. They turned toward the sound. They analyzed it, tried to understand it. The hive mind dedicated processing power to figuring out this strange broadcast. While they were distracted, his team moved. They approached from the opposite direction. Silent, fast. They placed small explosive charges at the base of the command node. Charges built with human chemistry. charges the Devourers wouldn't recognize as weapons until too late. "Charges set," whispered into his communicator. "Extraction in 30 seconds." They ran. The music still blared behind them. The Devourers were still trying to analyze it when the charges exploded. The command node collapsed. The blast wasn't big, but it was precise. It destroyed the hive mind's central processor for the entire system. In space, General watched his display in amazement. The Devourer fleet suddenly lost coordination. Ships drifted. Weapons stopped firing. The hive mind was blind. "All ships," commanded, "attack now while they're confused." The coalition fleet surged forward. The human ships joined them. Together they tore through the Devourer swarm. Without coordination, the enemy couldn't adapt, couldn't learn. They were just individual ships, and individual ships could be destroyed. 2 hours later, the battle was over. The Devourers were retreating, was saved. On the bridge of the Steadfast, General sat in his chair, exhausted. His face appeared on his screen. "General," the human captain said, "we're picking up Commander's team now. Mission successful." Shook his head slowly. "Captain, I've fought the Devourers for 6 months. This is our first real victory, and you achieved it in hours." "We achieved it together," corrected. "Your fleet, our tactics, that's how this works." "Your tactics are insane," said. "Yes," agreed. "But they work, because insanity is the one thing the Devourers can't predict." For the first time in months, General felt hope. The medical bay on the human ship Horizon's hope smelled like antiseptic and blood. Moved between beds, checking on wounded soldiers. Some were human. Others were, even a few whispers who had taken physical form just to fight. The war was bringing everyone together, but the cost was terrible. "Doctor," called a nurse, "we need you in Trauma Bay 3. Hurried over. A young human Marine lay on the table. He was 22 years old. Half his body was covered in burns from a Devourer energy weapon. His eyes stared at the ceiling, seeing nothing. Said gently, "Can you hear me?" His eyes focused on her. "Doc, did we win?" "You saved the transport convoy. All 300 civilians made it out." He smiled weakly. "Good, that's good." Worked on his injuries while they talked. The burns were bad, but what worried her more was his mind. She had seen that look before, had been in 12 battles in the last 2 months. He had watched friends die. He had killed enemies. And humans, unlike most alien species, carried those memories like weights. "You need rest," told him. "Real rest, away from the war." "Can't," whispered. "They need me, the war." "The war will still be here when you recover." But they both knew that wasn't true. The war was getting worse. 3 months since the battle and the fighting had spread across a dozen systems. Human tactics were working, but the Devourers were learning, adapting, getting harder to fool. And humans were paying the price. Commander entered the medical bay. The reptilian officer had become friends with many humans. He looked at the wounded with sad eyes. "Doctor," he said quietly, "I need to speak with you." They stepped into her office, sat down heavily. "I don't understand humans," he admitted. "What do you mean?" "Today I watched unit fight. They were outnumbered. They should have retreated. Instead, they stayed. They held their position so those transports could escape. 3 of them died. 5 more are in your medical bay." He looked at her. Why do humans throw their lives away?" Was quiet for a moment. "We don't see it as throwing lives away. We see it as giving lives meaning. Humans fear death, Commander. We fear it deeply. But we fear meaningless death even more. Dying to save others, that's a death we can accept." "But the psychological cost," said. "I've studied your species now. You get nightmares, depression, something you call PTSD. Other species don't suffer like this. When a warrior kills, it forgets within days. When it loses a battle, it simply plans the next one. But humans," he gestured helplessly, "humans remember everything. How can you fight when the cost to your minds is so high?" looked out the window at the stars. Because someone has to, because the alternative is worse. She turned back to him. Yes, we carry scars. Yes, we have nightmares, but we also have something other species don't. We have hope. We believe things can get better, that sacrifices matter, that the future can be worth the pain of the present. Shook his head. I'm beginning to understand why your legend scared people. Humans are terrifying, not because you're cruel, but because you're willing to hurt yourselves to help others. On the bridge of the Coalition command ship stood with an general. They were looking at a hologram. It showed a new Devourer weapon, a massive ship, 10 times larger than anything seen before. It had destroyed an entire fleet in minutes. We can't fight that, said bluntly. Not conventionally, agreed. She pulled up different data. But Sara and her engineering team have developed something, a weapon that could destroy that ship in one shot. What kind of weapon? Asked. Hesitated. A planet cracker. It uses quantum destabilization to tear apart molecular bonds. It would destroy the Devourer ship completely. But what? Demanded. But it can't be controlled precisely. The blast radius is huge. Any ship within 10,000 kilometers would also be destroyed, and the radiation would make the surrounding space unsafe for decades. Looked at them both. It's a weapon of mass destruction, the kind humans swore never to build again after the Third Global War. The room went silent. We don't have a choice, finally said. That Devourer ship is heading for the core worlds. Billions of lives are at stake. There's always a choice, said quietly. Nodded. Using this weapon violates everything Earth rebuilt itself on. We became better than our worst impulses. We learned to fight without losing our humanity. If we use this, then humans become exactly what the legend said, finished. Dangerous, destructive, willing to sacrifice anything for victory. Looked between them. So what do you suggest? We let the Devourers win. No, said a new voice. Walked onto the bridge. He was bandaged and moving slowly, but his eyes were clear. Behind him came dozens of other human soldiers, all wounded, all supposed to be in medical recovery. We suggest we fight harder, said. Smarter, find another way. There is no other way, insisted. Then we make one, replied. That's what humans do. We face impossible situations and we find solutions. Not easy solutions, not clean solutions, but solutions that let us sleep at night. Looked at the young Marine. You have an idea. Maybe. That Devourer ship is big, strong, but big things have big weaknesses, pointed at the hologram. Its power core is exposed, probably because they're so confident nothing can get close enough to hit it. But what if something did? A suicide run, said softly. A necessary sacrifice, corrected. One ship, one crew, volunteers only. We take an explosive ship straight into that core, destroy it from the inside. That's suicide, said. That's war, replied. Real war, where people make hard choices, where sacrifice means something, where we don't take the easy, terrible path just because it's available. Felt pride and pain mix in his chest. This was humanity, not the weapons, not the tactics. This, the willingness to pay the price personally rather than making others pay it. I'll pilot the ship, said. No, said from the doorway. She had followed him to the bridge. You're injured, you've done enough. I've done what I had to do, said gently. Just like everyone else here. Doc, my friends died in my arms. I see their faces every night. Maybe this is how I make peace with that. Maybe this is how I make their deaths mean something. Tears ran down his face. She wanted to argue, but she understood. She had treated hundreds of soldiers. She knew that sometimes people needed to give their lives meaning, even if the meaning came at the ultimate cost. I'll volunteer too, said another soldier. And me, said another. Within minutes had a full crew, all volunteers, all knowing they wouldn't come back. Deactivated the planet cracker weapon data. Tell Sara to prepare a standard explosive ship instead. Maximum yield, minimum crew. Looked at the humans with something like awe. Your species is mad. Yes, agreed. But we're the good kind of mad. The kind that would rather die as heroes than live as monsters. And his crew prepared for their mission. They had 3 days. 3 days to plan, to say goodbye, to make peace with their choice. In his quarters, recorded a message for his family back on Earth. Mom, Dad, by the time you see this, I'll be gone, but don't be sad. I'm doing what humans are supposed to do. I'm making the hard choice, the right choice. I'm proving that we learned from our past, that we're better now. He paused. Tell everyone on Earth that humanity is back, and we're not the monsters from the old stories. We're the heroes from the new ones. The message ended. 3 days later, ship raced toward the massive Devourer vessel. Behind him, the Coalition and human fleets engaged the enemy, creating a distraction. They fought with everything they had. Ship was small, fast, and filled with enough explosives to crack a moon. This is to all ships, it's been an honor. His voice was calm, steady. See you on the other side. His ship dove into the Devourer vessel's power core. There was a flash of light, then an explosion that lit up the entire system. When the light faded, the massive Devourer ship was gone. So was. The nexus point was the edge of known space, a place where gravity twisted reality, where stars were born and died in cosmic violence. And now, it was where the Devourers had built their central hive world. Stood on the bridge of the eternal dawn, looking at the massive structure on the. It was a planet, but not a natural one. The Devourers had consumed 1,000 worlds and built this from the remains, a sphere of biometal and stolen technology, the brain of their entire species. That's where it all ends, said Captain, standing beside him. Destroy that and the Devourers lose coordination across the entire galaxy. They'll just be scattered ships. No hive mind, no adaptation. And to destroy it, we need to get through their entire fleet, General added. He gestured at the tactical display. Thousands of Devourer ships surrounded the nexus point. We've never faced this many enemies at once. Then it's a good thing we're not alone, said. The hologram expanded. It showed not just the human fleet, not just the Coalition forces, but ships from every member world, whispers and a dozen other species, all together, all ready to fight. 6 months ago, half these species didn't believe humans existed, Commander said. Now they're willing to die beside us. That's what happens when you prove yourself, Sora said from the engineering station. She was exhausted. Her team had been working non-stop, combining human and alien technology in new ways. We showed them we're not the monsters from the legends. We're just people trying to help. Thought about all the other humans who had given their lives in this war. About the price humanity had paid to earn the galaxy's trust. It was worth it. It had to be worth it. All ships spoke into the fleet-wide channel. This is Captain. In a few minutes we're going to start the biggest battle any of us have ever fought. The Devourers will throw everything at us. We'll lose people, we'll lose ships, but we will not lose hope. He paused, saw him glance at a picture on his console, a picture of Earth, home. Humans learned something painful in our history, continued. We learned that division destroys, that hate consumes, that fear makes monsters, but we also learned that unity saves, that love creates, that courage makes heroes. Today we don't fight as humans or we fight as one people. One galaxy, one future. Across the fleet on ships of every design, crews listened. Some were nervous, some were afraid, but all of them were ready. All ships, General commanded, begin the assault. The combined fleet moved forward. It was the largest military force in galactic history, thousands of ships moving as one. The Devourers saw them coming. Their hive mind calculated, analyzed, prepared. But it couldn't predict what happened next. The human ships didn't follow standard formation. They scattered, each taking a different path. But it wasn't random chaos this time. It was organized unpredictability. Every human ship knew exactly what it was doing. They just made sure no two ships did the same thing. The Devourers tried to adapt. But how do you adapt to 1,000 different strategies happening at once? Coalition ships followed the human lead. They stopped fighting by the book. They started improvising, trying new things, taking chances. And slowly, impossibly, they started to break through the Devourer defenses. "This is Commander," crackled over the communication channel. "My team is approaching the nexus point. We're going in quiet." Pulled up the tactical feed. He saw a small human transport weaving through the battle. Inside were 50 Special Forces soldiers. Their mission was simple: land on the nexus point. Plant explosives at the core. Destroy it from the inside. "You have massive enemy presence on the surface," warned. "The hive mind knows you're coming." "Of course it does," replied calmly. "That's why we're not going alone." A dozen coalition ships suddenly changed course. They followed transport providing cover, fighters, bombers, whisper scouts, all working together to protect the human team. "We've got your back, Commander," said a pilot. Smiled. "Good to hear. Let's show these bugs what teamwork looks like." The transport landed on the nexus point. His team rushed out, fighting through Devourer defenses. But they weren't using standard tactics anymore. They were using everything humans had taught them: misdirection, psychology, unpredictability. And it was working. In space, the main fleet pushed deeper, worked in the medical bay, treating wounded as fast as they arrived. Humans, aliens, all bleeding the same color, all fighting the same enemy. Doctor, a young warrior, was brought in. He was missing 2 limbs. "Please, did we break through?" "We're breaking through," assured him. "Your sacrifice means something." "Good," the warrior clicked weakly. "Humans taught us, fighting for others, better than fighting for self." Felt tears in her eyes. This was what humanity had given the galaxy, not just weapons or tactics, but a different way of thinking, a different way of being. On the nexus point, his team reached the core. It was a massive chamber filled with bioprocessors, the heart of the Devourer hive mind. Destroying it would cripple the entire species. "Charges placed," reported. "Extraction in 2 minutes." But the Devourers weren't giving up. They sent every soldier, every defender, every weapon towards position. The team fought desperately. They held the line, but they were running out of time. "This is Captain. We're detecting massive enemy reinforcements coming your way. You need to leave now." "Negative," replied. "The charges need another 90 seconds to arm properly. We'll hold." His hands clenched. He knew what was doing, buying time with lives. But then something unexpected happened. "This is the heavy guard. We're landing next to the human position. Shock troops coming in hot. Whisper scouts providing cover." All across the fleet, alien soldiers were landing on the nexus point. Not because they were ordered, because they chose to. They were coming to help humans hold the line. Laughed, actually laughed. "Well then, looks like we've got company. All units, show these Devourers what a united galaxy fights like." The battle on the nexus point became a desperate melee. Humans and aliens fighting side by side, covering each other, saving each other, being the unity that the Devourers could never understand. "Charges armed," shouted. "Everyone out now." The combined forces ran for their ships. The Devourers chased them, but they were too late. The explosives detonated. The core of the nexus point shattered. The blast tore through the biometal planet, and across the galaxy, every Devourer ship suddenly went silent. The hive mind was dead. In the days that followed, the scattered Devourers were hunted down and destroyed. Without coordination, they were just machines, dangerous but beatable. The war was over. 2 weeks later stood in the Coalition Council chamber, but this time he wasn't in disguise. He wore his human uniform proudly, Beside him stood Sora and representatives of Earth. Ambassador raised his four arms. The Council has voted. By unanimous decision, humanity is granted full membership in the Galactic Coalition. Furthermore, Earth is granted a permanent seat on the High Council. The chamber erupted in applause. Species that had dismissed humans as legends 6 months ago were now celebrating them as heroes. But didn't feel like celebrating. He thought about all the humans who didn't live to see this day. "You look sad," said, approaching him. "This is a victory." "It cost too much," replied. "All victories cost," the reptilian commander said. "But you know what your species taught us, that the cost matters, that we should remember those who paid it, that grief and pride can exist together." He placed a clawed hand on shoulder. "Humans were dismissed as legends, but legends are just stories we tell about heroes, and now the galaxy knows you're real, that you're heroes, that you're us." Stepped up to the central podium. "Members of the Coalition, Earth has been isolated for 800 years. We hid because we were afraid of what we were. But this war taught us something important. We're not defined by our worst moments. We're defined by how we rise after falling." She activated a hologram. It showed Earth, beautiful, blue, alive. "We're opening our borders. Any species that wants to visit Earth is welcome. We'll share our art, our music, our stories, everything we've created in our isolation. Because humanity's greatest gift isn't our weapons or tactics, it's our hope, our belief that tomorrow can be better than today, our refusal to give up, even when the cost is terrible." Watch the council members. He saw understanding in their eyes, respect, maybe even friendship. Humans had been dismissed as legends, but legends, he realized, were just truth waiting to be proven, and humanity had proven themselves when it mattered most. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was a good thing.